Hello, everybody. This is episode 2 of the Liberty Chronicles. Up next is George Washington for us, and
Let's
we're quite
go.
excited about it. Dave, you got any thoughts?
I'm excited to talk about him. He's obviously he's a well-respected president. And, if
He's
you
up
look
there
at
for me.
yeah, if
He's
you
up
look
there
at
for
any
me.
rankings, he's
He's top 3 normally, at
yeah.
least.
I mean,
Oh, and that's a great thing. We were talking about we're gonna at the end of each episode, we're gonna put the president that we're talking about in a tier list, and at the end we're gonna kind of compare both of our lists.
yeah, I'm excited. It's gonna
Um,
see.
Thanks for the support on the first video. The last time I looked, it was at like 86 views.
That's a lot more than we thought. We were gonna get.
The bit at the end when I counted on my hand and it was like 4 people, that was not a joke. That's what I thought it was going to be. So that meant a lot. We put a lot of effort into it.
Yeah,
If you want to be on the podcast, I got a lot of questions about people like, hey, could I get on this? Just text one of us.
yeah. You
We'll
know
see.
where to find
Yeah,
this,
we'll try
or
to get you
I
on.
guess comment
Yeah, that works too.
some random.
Um, Keep talking about this chalkboard, dude. They're saying, how do I get it in? Let's just put it at Dave. It's right there.
Yeah, I see it right there.
Yeah, it's right there.
There.
Right there.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's hanging up.
Yeah, so Washington, you want to set the ground rules
Yeah,
for him?
so obviously he was born, before America was a thing. He was born into like the Britain monarchy and everything in America, Virginia,
Yeah, he's
right?
in
Yeah,
Virginia.
obviously. He was kind of a well-tamed kid, worked on a farm. It's,
Yeah, his dad was his name was Augustine.
mhm,
He was kind of like in the political life.
yeah.
I think he was like the Justice of Peace or something. I forget the actual
Yes.
title.
It was kind of a big deal, right?
Yeah, and they a lot of siblings, a lot of siblings.
Yeah.
So his uh his mother named Mary. He is the first kid of that marriage.
And they had like stepkids too, right?
Yeah, so he had 4
Yeah.
step brothers and I think there's a sister too.
Hmm.
And he actually looked up a lot to those guys. So
Just your
there,
stepbrother.
everybody,
Yeah.
there was not one of these occasions where like they didn't get along.
Yeah.
Like it was very, homely.
I know, and then I know his dad died pretty young. He's like 11.
Yeah,
His
and
dad
he
died.
kind of was forced to.
Yeah, he grew up pretty
Yeah,
young, so that's why he was kind of like a well-tamed guy. And I know, like, I forget what the one stepbrother's name is. I know he looked up to him pretty well.
Lawrence.
Yeah, he's the one. He was like, he looked up to him after his dad died, and
Yeah,
he died then too,
yeah.
pretty
So
young.
he was young age, which would be later his estate.
Yeah,
He like loved it there,
yeah,
and Lawrence was the one that got it. So he
yeah,
spent a lot of time
yep,
with Lawrence there.
yep.
He got I have it here. He got Ferry Farm and 10 slaves when his dad passed. So I think this is just a good time. Let's just get the slavery thing.
Yeah, I mean,
Let's
a lot of historians they like to just like, yeah, he's a slave owner, but like he's
let's
still a
get
great
out of the way.
president.
Um, I don't know how you're going to be ranking your presidents. You can rank however you want. Me personally, I will rank them on the opinion of the times.
That's a fair assessment,
So,
I feel
for
like.
example, I'm not going to hold George Washington too accountable because he had slaves, but
Yeah.
I'm going to keep it in mind. But then
Hmm.
someone like we spoiler Grant, we'll get to him later, who had a slave and just freed him instead of selling him because he was dirt poor.
Yeah.
I'm gonna kind of give it a bump for him. And
Yeah.
then when it happens, like Wilson, another spoiler, who was racist even for the time, that'll be a slight against him.
Mhm.
So that's how I'm ranking. You can rank however you want,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
that's me.
I think that's a fair assessment.
But spoiler, he had 10 slaves as a kid.
Yeah, he was 11 when he got them, right?
Yeah, when
Yeah.
he
His dad
married
died.
his wife Martha, she had like 86, and then they bought like 100 more later in life. They had slaves.
Yeah. I'm sure you've seen the Shane Gillis.
Yeah, that's really funny.
Yeah. That's funny.
What the hell is that, dude? Yeah, some claims of mistreatment and beatings. Very typical.
Yeah.
Not the best thing. I think we all know it sucks.
Yeah, he was like 6'3", I'm pretty sure. So,
Oh no, yeah, no, he was
yeah, get
he
that
was
man
a
on a corner, man.
yeah.
Something. Throw him some
Yeah.
lobs.
So we'll get to his height in a little bit
Yeah.
because I have a quote about that. But yeah, so he young kid inherited a farm and spent a lot of time with Lawrence. And through Lawrence, he met Lawrence's father-in-law. And that was like his surrogate father.
Yeah.
And that became his kind of political in, if you will.
Hmm.
So
Now I know he was like a surveyor
yeah,
before.
so the way he got it, because he was good with math.
Yeah. And he only got like a what, middle school about. He might
Yeah,
have got high
like he
school
could like read
education.
and write, but like
Yeah,
that's
he stopped just because he had to work on the
yeah.
farm when his dad died and everything. So
Mhm.
I know he didn't get the highest of education.
Yeah. Well, he went to in those days like churches offered
Yeah.
like schooling, and that's where like he actually got pretty good with like like algebra
Yeah,
and
like the
trigonometry.
basic math for
Yeah.
surveying, pretty much. Yeah.
So he was vastly underqualified to get his surveyor's. Well, he got his
Mm.
surveyor's license, and then to get the surveyor of I forget which county, but his county
Yeah. Oh, I know it, but I don't.
starts with an F.
Yeah.
Whatever. But his brother's father-in-law got him in for that, even though he didn't even have an apprenticeship. You needed that to get in, but he got that, and he was actually really good at it.
Yeah.
Did very good, and got a lot of land from it because he was always out in the territories.
Yeah.
And then that kind of sets. So Lawrence, his brother, had TB, tuberculosis. Yeah,
Is this? Yeah. I'll
that's
let
his
you
brother.
explain.
Yeah.
No. I'll let you explain.
So
I'm pretty sure I know what happened.
they were going down to Barbados
Yeah.
because back in the day
They
it's
thought the
about
air.
air.
Yeah, they thought
Yeah,
the air was
yeah,
better. It's so
yeah,
funny.
to breathe in fresh air
Yeah.
because that'll.
It's like the fountain
And
of youth almost.
yeah, and he got tuberculosis with his brother.
Yep.
And to talk about the diseases this guy got, he got
Yeah,
dysentery
he
like
did.
14 times.
Mm-hmm.
He had smallpox, which left his face kind of scarred,
Scarred, yeah.
and sterile. He didn't have any kids.
Really?
Yeah, no.
Oh, I think I did see that too, actually.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he had like he raised kids because Martha had like kids from a
Yeah.
previous relationship, marriage, whatever.
Yeah, they were crazy back then.
But yeah, but he had TB, so he kind of sound like reports. He didn't sound like powerful, like kind of sounded airy,
hmm
but he could still carry a room. But yeah, he went down to Barbados with his brother Lawrence, who was kind of like the leader of the militia in Virginia, and that kind of inspired him to
Do it too.
go into the military life.
Yeah.
So he again through his brother's father-in-law got believe he started as a major and started doing expeditions into the territory.
Yeah, and I know just because he's like the surveying background really helped him out with
Oh
that
yeah,
and helped him climb the ranks just because he was very familiar with the land and knew how to navigate it. So
yeah. So if you go to
really helped.
Pittsburgh, there's actually a statue, and it's him and forget the chief's name, but it's a native chief,
Mhm.
and the statues they're looking each other in the eye
Yeah.
because he went up and he did a treaty with them, the Iroquois,
Mhm.
and then later he asked for them help with the French, which is kind of getting into another can of worms. I don't know if you
Uh-oh.
open it up with that.
We're gonna talk about it now? I guess it's sort of like the timeline, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
yeah.
Good.
So you like obviously climbing up the ranks, and this is still technically for Britain, right? Or
Yeah, yeah,
Virginia,
yeah.
but
He's
Britain.
well colonial,
Yeah,
but yeah.
colonial. So I don't know the exact reason why. Obviously, they were
Oh,
they were fighting over the territory, and I
so
know was it Ohio Valley? Was that
yeah,
where it was?
so he was going up. The the
The
French
France?
established Fort Duquesne, and he was tasked with basically saying, "No, you guys can't be there."
Yeah.
And if it came to blows, it'll come to blows.
Mm.
So he goes up, and he gets word of a 50-man like camp,
Uh-oh.
and he slaughters them. Reports differ. Some say the natives kind of just went crazy, and some say he.
Yeah.
So whatever happened, they died. On the body of the commander, there was a letter that basically was like, "Hey, this is like some correspondence with England. Like we don't want to fight."
hmm
So he was like,
Yeah.
"Fuck."
Is that when they built Fort Necessity?
Fort Necessity.
Yeah.
He retreats back there because he was waiting for retaliation.
hmm
He loses that fight.
They surrounded it and
Yeah.
they shit them.
And he surrenders. It basically says unknowingly that he was responsible for it because there was translation issues.
Yeah.
So he is kind of like disgraced at this point. And he goes back to, oh, I guess I should talk about this too. So he had Ferry Farm. Lawrence had Mount Vernon. Lawrence dies from TB,
Yep.
and he leases it from his widow, George Washington, to kind of like run the farm. And then later she dies, and then that's how he comes in possession of it.
Okay. So they both died.
Yeah, so he goes back.
Burning.
He goes to his childhood home, and basically kind of just sits on his hands because he's in timeout. And later, that event starts the 7 Years' War,
Yeah.
or in America we call it the French and Indian War. Yeah. So they do an expedition
And this
again.
is not
Go ahead.
to cut you off or anything.
No, that's
This
fine.
is like the war sort of that like made Britain kind of poor, which
Oh
in
yeah,
turn led to them taxing America, which in
yeah.
turn led to the Revolutionary
Which
War.
we started.
So technically, George Washington, man, he was American. He didn't even know it.
Yeah, he started.
Yeah, it's just a snowball effect.
Yeah, and that's in many ways that's the first like world war because it was fought on every
Yeah,
continent, I believe so, through
mhm.
like the colonies.
That's a true point. Yeah, I didn't even think about
Yeah.
that. Wow.
So, Mr. Thomas, if you're watching, I said that and you said I'm wrong, and I'm right. I swear to God. They fought on every continent. But that's besides the point. That's a little,
They
little.
fought in Antarctica.
Shut the hell up, dude.
Maybe that's what he meant.
Um, yeah. So they do an expedition while the war is going on, and he was placed under General Braddock. He was kind of like an aide.
Yeah.
He was, I think, he got the rank of major again, but
This
he
is the
was
French
just
and Indian War you're talking
yeah. So England's going up to get the forts in the territories, and Washington's kind of helping him. He's like, "Yeah, we should do this, we should do that," and then he gets dysentery really bad again, and he has to stay behind. So Braddock gets ambushed and dies, and he rides ahead and he does like a rear guard action. You know what a rear guard is?
Yeah, it's like he's like trying to retreat everyone back, sort of.
Yeah, so
I don't
everybody's
exactly.
retreating, and
I
he's
know,
like
yeah,
kind of putting like
I
a
know he helped them retreat, and that's
yeah.
what
So
made him
he's
like,
putting like
yeah,
a line in the sand, and he
yeah.
performs a rear guard,
Mhm.
which he got two horses
Horse is
shot
dead.
under
Yeah, I
him,
was gonna say I
and
see that too.
so the natives actually believed he was invincible. Like they were like the prophecy was, "Oh my God, we can't kill this guy.
Yeah,
This guy is going to rule a great empire," which he kind of
hell yeah,
hit the
dude.
nail on the head there. But yeah, so the kind of that saved his reputation,
Hmm.
and he even got like a bit of clout from everybody, not just like the colonies, but the natives feared him.
Yeah.
Even like people back at home, England, the army didn't really respect him. He got
Obviously.
passed over many times and got
I was
humiliated.
gonna say I saw somewhere that he lost more battles than he won. I don't know how true that is.
Oh yeah, we'll get there
Yeah.
because I got some opinions about that. But yeah. So he is a hero, comes back, and is slighted by the crown because he's not getting a royal commission. And in that time, a royal commission is kind of like a step up. So captain who is at a royal commission is better than George Washington, who is at a major or even a colonel,
Hmm.
because he's just a colonial. He's a ball.
Yeah.
So he got slighted. He resigns. He said, "Screw you guys, I'm done." While he was fighting, his friends put his name in for legislature, and he lost the first time. But then he won. He wins the second time.
Legislator of what?
The state legislature
Okay, for
of Virginia. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
The first time he didn't even know he was running. He was
Yeah.
like, "Oh."
Yeah.
And the second time he's like, "Yeah, okay, well, give the guy some beer. Pass beer around." And while he's fighting, he wins.
Yeah.
So he's in there, and then after the 7 Years' War, he is in legislature. He's kind of quiet. He's not saying anything until the taxes start coming in, and he's big. He is just slamming England. He writes. I have it here somewhere. He writes the list of resolutions with George Mason, who is a prominent founding father. Well, we're not going to talk about. Maybe she did. Who knows?
Yeah.
And it's basically kind of saying like England, you suck, and we want to end the slave trade, which was very profitable at the time.
And I once again, I find it so funny just because he kind of, not that he started the French and Indian War, like it was probably, I mean, they were quarreling for probably a while, but like,
He kind of lit the
yeah, that's what I mean. Like he lit it and like that's what made Britain poor. And
Yeah.
then he's pissed off that they're taxing because of what he did.
Well, yeah.
What
So
he
he was
started.
like, really, he's like, we should be represented if we're getting taxes.
Yeah,
And
that,
they
yeah,
said, screw you.
yeah, that
So
makes sense.
he gets invited to the Second Continental Congress because of these, like, because he was organizing like protests. He
Hmm.
was writing letters, and that's a big thing at the time. So he gets invited. He meets John Adams there. They become pretty good friends, and he gets nominated by John Adams to become the commander in chief of the army. Because at this point, England has put direct control on Massachusetts, which is kind of like unheard of. They revoked their charter, which is kind of like their own government,
Yeah.
and the what's that battle called, Dave?
Which one?
Lexington and Concord, yeah. And that kind of kicks it off. He was not in command. Well, he was in command, but there was no standing army yet. So he's told the farmers to be ready in a minute's notice. Started the Minutemen.
Yeah.
So after that, he gets nominated. He's commander in chief, and he meets Abigail Adams. And now she's a shrewd woman, John Adams' wife. She runs all the finances, and she's like very well spoken, very educated. His opponents when he was president, called her Mrs. President because he was such a trusted advisor. She's great. Here's a quote. Now, this is a shrewd woman. She doesn't get fazed by anybody.
Yeah.
So this is a quote when she first meets George Washington. Ready? I was struck with George Washington. Dignity with ease and complacency. The gentleman and soldier look agreeably blended to him. Modesty marks every line and feature in his face. Right, I'm not done. She said it reminded him of some poem. These lines right here, ready? Mark his majestic fabric, he's a temple, sacred by birth and built by hands divine. His soul's the deity that lodges there, nor is the pile unworthy of a god.
Dude, if a girl talked to me like that,
buddy. And she sent that to a letter to John Adams.
Yeah. Oh, really? Yeah, that guy's like, huh?
Compared him to a god. Because he was 6'3".
What was the thing about fabric? Fabric? Divine fabric?
Yeah, he was basically made by the gods. That's what she was saying.
That's funny.
Because it's what she's referencing is Greek.
Yeah.
So she was and this woman is unimpressed by anybody.
Mm-hmm.
His one of his subordinates, General Lee, she's like, this guy's a ball. And then right after, she's like, this guy's a god.
Yeah.
So that just makes me giggle. I think that's the funniest quote.
Yeah.
So yeah, he becomes commander-in-chief. We won't talk too much about the Revolutionary War.
No, I mean we didn't even get to his presidency yet.
Yeah, but he
already blabbing on here.
There's some talk here. Look right at the camera. There's some talk that he is not a good general. He may have lost more battles than he won, but I want to see anybody take a bunch of bums or farmers with no militia experience and fight a freaking war against the most powerful empire.
I mean, it's like
I want to hear it.
It's like looking at like LeBron's first finals run with that
exactly.
Like,
that's a great
LeBron
point.
James and
it's not like he didn't win. He won Harlem Heights. He had a great New Jersey campaign, and his southern movement of troops to end the war is brilliant. And not to mention, his leadership in Valley Forge kept it together. His smallpox experience led him to getting the troops inoculated so that they didn't get smallpox. Mm-hmm. And he shut down like 3 different mutinies. Name one. I'm getting fired up.
They're haters.
Name one person in history who didn't take over the government while they're head of the military during the revolution. It happened in France. Napoleon became an emperor.
Yeah.
Russia. Soviet Union.
He had all the power in the world.
Literally. He could have taken it.
Yeah.
There's Horatio Gates is another general. Kind of a big name. He won Saratoga. His aide de camp writes a letter basically saying, hey, we didn't get paid in like forever. We're going to march on Washington. That's what he's saying.
Is this, you're saying like the troops didn't get paid? And
they're like all the officers were not getting paid and they're
mad.
commissioned. So they're like, we're going to march not on Washington because Washington wasn't a thing yet, but on Congress.
Yes. So. Yeah.
And George is like, all right, well, let's have a meeting. And he has it in a church. Now let's say the camera is the end of the church where like the priest talks and stuff. So Horatio Gates is leading it. He's up there.
Mm-hmm.
George Washington walks from the back, comes in, nice and soft, so everybody could see him. He walks up. And he basically, here's another quote, he just tells him how disappointed he is. He says, this is something so shocking in it. Humanity revolts at the very idea. Okay? He goes, the guy who wrote this, can he be a friend to the army or to even his country? This is abhorrent. That's what he says. And then he says, he's basically, give one more distinguished proof of patriotism in patient virtue and place your confidence into the purity of Congress. He's begging. And then he reads it, he gets a letter out, and it's from a congressman, and it's basically in support of the army. He's like, let me read you this here. And he goes, gentlemen, you must pardon me, because he's having trouble reading. For I have not only grown gray, but almost blind in service to my country. And that is such a moving quote.
So he's pretty much guilt tripping them into.
Yes, this is such a moving quote because he's 6'3", he's a hulking man,
Yeah.
and he never complains. So all the troops love him. He's like, this is our guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he just does this little kind of like glimpse of frailty.
Yeah.
And the soldiers openly wept and then wrote basically an apology letter to him, and everybody signed it. This is the kind of like respect this guy commands.
Yeah.
No weapons. He walks in. Anybody could have struck him down if he wanted to. If they really wanted to march, they could have done it.
Mhm.
But they were so fearful of him that nobody else could have done that. Name anybody. I'm a defender. They're great books. I have a book at home. If you're text me, I'll send you the book. It's a great book.
About him just being a general?
Yeah, it's
General
like
class?
he's not too bad. He's actually pretty capable.
Yeah.
Name one other army that could get defeated that many times and not crumble.
That's true.
I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it. Okay, I'm sorry. I kind of got a little
Yeah.
off topic there. But okay, the war ended. We win.
Yeah. I can go more into detail about just we want to make it quick because
Yeah.
you already talked about the Constitutional Convention, but it obviously is a pretty good point when it comes to him becoming the first president in the Constitution. The executive branch is like what? Okay, I don't even know how big is it. Do you know? This is like a paragraph, right? Or just one section.
Yeah, so it's not big at all.
Yeah. So like when it comes to when they wrote all this, they kind of had in mind like, hey,
Everybody knew what he did.
Yeah.
Everybody knew he was going to be the first
Yeah,
president.
they kind of put it around him, and like there was not. It was kind of unclear about what the president
Yeah.
could do. I know there's a lot like that goes into it. I know they were arguing if it should be one person or three people. That was a big question.
Yeah.
If like his council and cabinet, if they should be paid or unpaid. Like
Mhm.
there was a lot of questions going into it. And I know Washington himself, because he was there, obviously.
Yeah.
He favored a strong executive branch
Mhm.
head, but he didn't.
Personally.
Yeah, he didn't say much because, like you said, he wasn't going to complain or debate.
The only thing he said that whole thing was about representation.
Yeah, he was like wasn't he like he presided it though, right?
Yeah,
The
he was.
convention?
Benjamin Franklin was like, "You're going to run this, right?" And he's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, and he didn't really convene much. He was just kind of
no,
there.
the only time he talked was about
that.
representation.
Yeah, he was the only thing. So like you said, it just
But
goes
yeah.
to show.
So before we get into like him being president, we should go over the election. And I missed this last episode. I apologize.
Mm.
The Electoral College is something that is heavily debated today. Let's just kind of walk you guys through what it is and why they did it.
Yeah.
So like you said, they didn't know if they wanted like a 3-person system, kind of similar to Rome with their what are they called?
Mm.
Consuls. It's
Yeah.
consulship. They had to. They wanted 3. But a guy named James Wilson argued for a unitary executive, which is 1.
Yeah.
He also argued for a direct election. But obviously, there are some issues with that. One being, how the hell are you going to get everybody to vote in a timely manner?
Yeah.
Because, it's 17.
At
that point,
true.
87.
I mean, yeah.
Takes a while. Another thing is, we talked about last episode how people are kind of scared that some rabble rouser could come in
Yeah,
and get the popular
power
support.
hungry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they were kind of arguing for a parliamentary system. Do you know what a parliamentary system is?
Solemnly.
So,
You
like
can explain
England
it for them, not
yeah.
for me.
So Parliament, or in this case, our Congress would elect it.
Mm-hmm.
But
And we would elect the Congress.
yeah, we'd elect Congress, but we would never have a say on who's president.
Yeah.
They would bring it up. Obviously, that didn't sit well with a lot of guys who thought that the legislature would be way too powerful. Somebody even brought up state legislature, but have them kind of hash it out.
Mm-hmm.
But then they thought, well, the president would kind of have to kind of cater to like certain states.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
So James Wilson, again, very important figure that nobody talks about, except at the Electoral College. So now the Electoral
Season
College,
2.
yeah, season 2. Electoral College is not. It's based on population for each state, Basically, you get at the very least 3 points per state. You get 2 points for 2 senators. Every state has two.
Yeah.
And then it's however many representatives you have in Congress. So Wyoming has 3 because they only have 1 representative because their population is large.
Yeah.
The way they are chosen is up for debate between the states. So some have a popular vote. It's like, all right,
Oh, is it different for each state?
Yeah.
Even now?
Yeah.
I didn't know
I
that.
believe so. There is I think most of them kind of do it like the party picks them,
Yeah. Okay.
like their nominations for
Mhm.
them. Because I don't think we vote, at least in PA. Do we?
I never voted.
Oh yeah, you never voted.
Yeah. This year. It's my first year. Right. Yeah, it's my first year I can for at least president.
Oh yeah, you can vote last. Yeah. Okay. Anyways,
I wasn't 18.
so some states had popular vote and they picked their electors, and then the electors in turn would cast their vote for president. Some states had it that the legislature would pick them, and then some states like New York couldn't agree. So if you look at the map, we'll have the map on the chalkboard back there.
Right there, it's hanging up.
The first election, New York's not in it. They didn't vote
Really?
because
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
so the Senate was like, hey, we're gonna pick like a majority of them, and then you got the legislature can pick a couple, and they're like the legislature was like no, and they both had to sign off of it.
Yeah, and they weren't gonna.
So
Yeah.
it was a deadlock, and they missed it.
Was
So
it the only state? Or yeah, I can see.
so they're the only actual state. Rhode Island and North Carolina didn't sign the Constitution. They weren't in it. And Vermont wasn't a state either.
Yeah.
They actually had they kind of had their own like republic or whatever. Just recap: the Electoral College, New York could not decide on its electors; it did not vote. Rhode Island, North Carolina were not states yet because they didn't ratify the Constitution. They didn't vote. And
Yeah.
Vermont was kind of doing their own thing for a little bit because they had some beef with other states. They didn't vote. After that, everybody voted for George Washington. But at the time, electors got 2 votes,
Yeah.
and you're supposed to pick like president and vice president.
Oh wow.
So the second place got a vice president,
Yeah.
but it wasn't like you didn't specify which one's which.
Mhm.
So there's actually some fear that George or John Adams would be the first president because the southern half wouldn't vote for George
Why?
because he was kind of in favor of a more unitary or federal government,
Yeah, and
and
yeah,
the
the
South
South
wasn't.
was yeah. Okay.
But that was unfounded. John Adams is vice president, and then he kind of took that to heart because not everybody, but he got like only 35 votes, and that kind of pissed him off a little bit. But we'll get there. Anyway, so he becomes president.
I know he had like the obviously he's first president, like he kind of set the precedent when it comes to like inauguration,
Yeah,
like an address,
yeah,
and a
New
whole
York.
like, ceremony, yeah, in
Yeah.
New York. So
They forced him to take salary. He didn't want to take salary.
Yeah.
They forced him, and that's the first. And then he kind of understood the power and the importance of the situation.
well,
So
yeah, he was very reluctant to do things.
yeah, so in a
obviously.
letter to James Madison, he wrote, "As the first of everything in our situation will be precedent, devoutly wish that precedents be based on true principles." So he did not want to like kind of go buck wild.
Yeah.
He was really trying to make sure that everything he did was right.
Hmm.
So that kind of led him to not really using the veto power a lot. He was, hey, if it's Congress's will,
Yeah.
I'll pass it through.
That's he was just scared.
His cabinet was like kind of like an all-star cast.
I know, yeah, that's what I was sort of gonna get into it, but I don't know. I don't know if you ever written
I
that,
have
'cause
him
I
written
know.
down.
So, yeah, he was like he appointed that was like a big high in his presidency just because even just like Alexander Hamilton,
Yeah,
and yeah, the whole financial
yeah.
system.
So Hamilton was his Secretary of the Treasury. Secretary of State was big Thomas Jefferson. They hated each other.
Yeah.
Those two. We'll get to that. Secretary of War was Henry Knox, who served in the Revolutionary War.
Fort
and
Knox.
yeah, Fort Knox. That's who his name's after.
Yeah.
And then Attorney General is Edmund Randolph, which we don't need to know about. Yeah. So he showed great restraint, like I said. And he also, I didn't know this, he set the day of Thanksgiving.
Really?
Yeah. And he spent that by fasting and giving out food and beer to people in prison.
So he kind of founded Thanksgiving,
Yeah,
like
he was like, this is a
the
national
day it
holiday.
is. Okay.
Yeah. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I'm, you want to talk about like slavery right now? So
Does he? I don't know how big of a.
it's pretty big. It was a balancing act.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the whole compromise in the Constitution.
Yeah. So this is going to set the pace for the next like 40 years.
Yeah.
And he had it because Georgia and South Carolina like threatened to leave
Mhm.
because there was a talk about, all right, let's talk about slavery, guys. We gotta cut this out. They're like, well, we're leaving right now. Like, well, they're like, we'll go to war. So George had to like kind of so he denied black immigrants becoming citizens,
Mhm.
which not great.
Okay.
But he also signed the Northwest Ordinance, which any slave in the Northwest Territory, which is like Midwest, like Michigan, Wisconsin, Ohio,
Mhm.
any slave that was out there, like past like 1787, he freed. Kind of like, and then he permitted slavery in Southwest territories like Tennessee and Kentucky, and they become states. And then they got
Did
it
they become states during his term?
in between the first term, yeah.
Okay.
But they become states, and they're both slave states. Sorry, Vermont becomes a state as well, which is a free state. So it was like kind of back and forth.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So yeah, I never even like really thought about that. About those states. I like talk because obviously the more when we get closer to the Civil War and those states start trending more west, you know about those states and the compromises
Yeah.
they went through, but
But
the
no, it
early ones,
starts
yeah.
at the first thing, and he was basically trying to balance the
Hmm.
South. Even though he was a slave owner himself, he
Yeah.
really took it upon himself to kind of,
He knew
yeah,
it was going to cause tension, and that we'll get to that in his farewell address.
sure. So, you want to talk about Hamilton now? You can talk about Hamilton
Well,
if you want.
I think about Hamilton. I mean, besides, I really think Robert Morris. He's an underdog when it
He's an
comes to
underdog.
this because
He's really good.
he was like the reason we won. Obviously you want to say George Washington. He was a big reason why we won the Revolutionary War
Oh
himself.
yeah.
But Hamilton obviously he set up. He had this whole financial plan where obviously he's trying to pay off the debts of
Yeah.
the war.
So
And
you like know how that happens?
about what like
Like,
him with the. I know he set up the taxes and everything.
yeah. So he assumes the debt of the states,
Yeah.
and it was a big thing. Like Jefferson did not want to do that at all.
Hmm.
But he assumes the debt, and he basically says, "All right, well, 15% of the revenue has to go to the debts,
Yep.
but that's not all the revenue." So he establishes like an income
Yeah.
because all the states would have just been paying off their debt instead of taking it to the government.
Yeah.
So he just says, "All right, well,
You gotta send it to me.
let me assume your debt, and I'll pay it off the federal government." And that's how they actually get. And that was a very much against Jefferson's kind of plan.
Yeah.
And then he establishes a national bank, which Jefferson again said this is not part of the Constitution.
Robert Morris helped with that.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
And Hamilton said, well, this is one of the presumed powers talked about in the Constitution. It does. George Washington continually favored Hamilton,
Yeah.
and probably rightly so because Jefferson did some shady stuff. Do you know about that?
Well, we can get to it when he's.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm saying we can get to Jefferson's. I don't know.
Yeah, anything else about Hamilton?
Well, I mean, he kind of had the whole whiskey tax, right?
Oh, well, yeah. So,
Yeah, and that
yeah, okay.
that
We can talk about the whiskey rebellion.
yeah,
So, Congress passes the whiskey tax, and the Western farmers of Pennsylvania,
yeah.
yeah, weren't a fan of it,
No.
and they kind of rebelled and started taking the tax collectors and beating them up and stuff. So Hamilton,
Were they still tarring by then?
yeah, yeah,
That's sick. Imagine that. That's awesome.
that sucked, dude. That's hot tar.
And then feathers thrown on you. Like that's so funny. I'd laugh at somebody if I saw someone like down the road.
But anyways, Hamilton and Washington take a army out. Basically, hey guys, stop it. They said okay. Two people were supposed to die, and then Washington was like, "No, we're fine."
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, that was the whiskey rebellion there. And then Jefferson, I think we should just get in the feud between him and Hamilton.
Jefferson and Hamilton?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can.
So they hated each other, and they start what's known as the first party system. And for those of you who don't know, and probably you. There's 6-party systems right now. We're probably in the process of a 7th-party system, and it kind of sets. All right, who are the 2 parties and what are they standing for? So the first party system of the Federalists, established by Hamilton.
And then no nothings, right?
Nothing. Wall.
It's my favorite party.
We'll get there. But you like know nothings?
Yeah, it's a sick name for a
Okay.
party. Like,
Okay.
I know nothing. Like,
Federalists and the Democratic Republicans.
Yeah.
Is the first party system established by Thomas Jefferson. They were actually known as Jeffersonian Republicans for a while. They hated each other. It led Thomas Jefferson to even. So this is crazy, and I kind of have a gripe with him about this. He paid a guy by the name. I have his name, Philip Freneau. I only ever read it. I don't know how you say it, but Philip Freneau. That's what we're gonna say for now. But
you definitely had that one lined up in the back pocket. But all right, keep going.
Swear to God, I didn't. He paid him on the federal budget, so he's part of the federal government technically as a translator. But he paid for him to have a newspaper that talked heat about the administration while he's in the administration as Secretary of State. He is paying on the federal dollar for another guy to talk heat about the administration and kind of.
And obviously George Washington wasn't really affiliated with any party because he
opposed
them.
He constantly sided with Hamilton a lot.
Yeah,
he favored. He was a sympathizer of the Federalists.
Yeah, but he technically.
But yeah, he tried to stay above it.
Yeah,
until later in the presidency, but we'll talk about that. But yeah, Washington found out a guy blew the whistle. Miraculously, that guy who blew the whistle died in like an inch of water. He drowned. Yeah. But he resigned, Jefferson. And that happened in the second term, and I guess we should talk about the second term. He didn't want to he wanted to retire.
Yeah, he obviously there was no rule about how long president.
Yeah, and he was like, guys, I'm done. I'm sick as a dog.
Yeah.
I don't want to be here. And
he almost died in office, right?
Yeah.
Because it was a big deal because Vice President.
That was not set up yet.
Yeah.
Who takes over?
Yeah, they had no clue.
John Tyler sets that up, and he's a 10th president. So for a little while.
Oh wow, I didn't even know that.
Yeah,
10. Jeez.
So he doesn't want. He's like, guys, I'm sick. I don't want to do this. I want to go home. And everybody, Jefferson, Madison, Hamilton, Adams, they're like, you gotta stay in. Without you, it's gonna get bad. So he stays in. And then immediately after he stays in, 2 years after, Jefferson retires, or not retires, he resigns. Hamilton resigns because he wants to make more money. Knox and him have a falling out because there's a claim that he was stealing money from government. I don't know if that's true. I never looked into it. But he resigns. And then his Attorney General resigns. So everybody in his first cabinet resigns at some point or another. So he's kind of left, not alone, because he knew the other guys too.
Yeah.
But that was the core.
Yeah. They all went to free agency.
Basically, yeah. And then I guess we should talk a little bit about foreign affairs, because this kind of sets up why Hamilton and Jefferson kind of.
Yeah, I mean, he was very much so against foreign affairs. He didn't.
Well, yeah.
He wanted to be neutral, right?
Well, yeah. So, but Hamilton was a big Britain guy. Thomas Jefferson was a French guy.
Mm-hmm.
He again sided with Hamilton, and he gets John Jay to go out get the Jay Treaty done.
Yeah, that was that in the Ohio Valley region too?
Yeah, so you're talking about that. Do you want to kind of cover that? You were talking about that last time.
What
like how they had their forts and stuff.
Yeah, I mean the Britain after the war they still stayed in their forts, they didn't.
Yeah,
they still occupied pretty much, and America was like, what the hell, and they were obviously they felt threatened, so that's where they got John Jay to come in and sign it.
Yeah, so they relinquished the forts,
but then like you just said, around the same time was I don't know what was the French in that they. Was it it wasn't the
It was their Revolutionary Wars.
Yeah, it was. It was. And
they had 18 of them.
They were like, hey, we helped you.
Pissed.
We helped you in the Revolutionary War. Why don't you help us?
Yeah. So one of the only times Jefferson and Hamilton agreed is the French sent a guy over and he was so obnoxious that they're like, dude, fuck this guy.
I'm just picturing that obnoxious French guy in my head right
Ew,
now.
me.
Yeah, I don't want to be that, but I just picture that. Yeah, there's something stupid with that. I don't
But
know.
yeah, so even Jefferson was like, dude, screw this guy.
Yeah.
So that's the only time they agreed, and they got the Jay Treaty. They got the forts. Natives were allowed to pass between the two nations.
Yep.
And we'll get to the natives soon because there's a big thing with that. And we established trade. We could not get. They kept impressing our people. England did. We couldn't get that done. But France was pissed. France did not want this to happen at all. They even gave Washington like honorary citizenship. If to kind of like
Help me.
yeah. So the natives. Oh, excuse me, my throat. I need a glass of water.
We've been here for a while.
I know we've been yapping.
Washington's our man.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm a big Washington guy. The natives back before the Jay Treaty was sent by England to kind of like harass us. No, I shouldn't say normally, but prominently in the Northwest, they were really giving it to us. And my town's namesake came out, tried to fight him, and he lost really bad. So Arthur St. Clair is kind of like not looked at fondly in history because he
Well,
lost a really bad battle.
it was like the worst lost battle against Native Americans in like American history, right?
Yeah,
Like, I
at
mean,
that time.
yeah.
I don't know if Little Bighorn passes it, but
Oh, that's a good
yeah,
point.
I you're on the right track though. At
Yeah.
the very least, it's to that point.
Yeah, and it was public and embarrassing.
Now, on defense of Arthur St. Clair, he was found like not responsible because the War Department didn't give him enough troops and what.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, big loss there. But to Washington's credit, he like treated them as like nations, like powerful tribes.
Yeah.
He would have them in, and he treated them like foreign dignitaries.
Yeah, he was pretty good. Like
No,
doing
and
like
he even said like a native killed on the frontier should be treated as if you killed a white man. So he was very much like he smoked a peace pipe with one of the chiefs.
really.
Yeah, and then like drank wine. They got like destroyed. I think that's really cool. But so like in the Southwest, he negotiated treaties and like that was fine. But then in the Northwest, it took some convincing by military matters, and Arthur St. Clair lost. Then here's a character. Mad Anthony comes in. He was a war hero,
Which war?
revolutionary. Mad Anthony.
Yeah.
That's what they called him. And he adopts the native strategies and wins and burns their villages, and then their treaty signed. So that's what happens there because they kept kicking our butt. Like a lot of people died too. Like I want to say like 3,000.
But it like wasn't
Settlements.
formally a war name.
No,
Yeah,
it was more just like they
skirmishes.
call it the Indian War, but
Yeah.
it was more just like disputes
Yeah.
and skirmishes and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's really all I have on the presidency. And then after,
I mean, yeah. Obviously, I feel like all right, we're gonna bring in the farewell address, but we literally like hit everything that he
oh yeah,
talks about in the farewell address. Like we just said, political parties. I mean, we
yeah,
can
he's against
still,
political parties.
yeah, political parties.
He's against political party. Okay, I shouldn't say he's against political parties. He's
He
against
said he
the
warning.
two-party
Yeah,
system.
he's a warning against. Yeah,
He wants to stay neutral.
he wanted the nation to become more unified.
Yeah.
Which I mean, he just said before with the slave negotiation,
Mhm.
he already sees what's coming. Damn near what 100
Yeah.
100 years in the future. He knows.
I think everybody they were just kicking the can.
Yeah,
They-
literally. But
But
we just said at the same time. That's sick.
I mean,
Obviously, the foreign allies. He didn't want any foreign alliances. He wants to
yeah,
stay
he wanted to
neutral.
stay neutral.
And I know he was pretty big on like supporting education,
Oh, was
especially
it? I didn't know that.
yeah, like it's actually in that address. I'm pretty sure.
Is it?
Yeah, that and like I guess religion too, but
Okay.
I don't know what he was. Do you know what religion he was? I have no
Christian.
clue. Yeah, I'd assume
Probably
something like
Protestant
that.
because he's from Virginia. That makes the
Yeah,
most sense.
and I think even in the address, he said something about like the fiscal period, like just like
Oh, just like watch spending,
yeah,
like monetary policy.
yeah, because I mean they did drag him out of debt.
Yeah,
And
because once well, so at the end of his second term, he was like exhausted.
yeah,
The press is saying that he's like greedy and stuff,
mhm,
which he's taking to heart, especially from the Democratic Republicans who begged him to stay in,
yeah,
and their papers are talking.
hmm
So that kind of leads him to be more of a federalist. Like he supported, I didn't know this. He supported the Alien Sedition Acts. We'll get to that next episode, which I'm like, whoa, because he hated the press
yeah,
because he was getting cooked, and He supported John Marshall, who was a prominent. We'll talk about it. Well, yeah, we will talk about him next episode. He plays a big part in Adams' presidency, but he pushed for him to go for Congress to kind of damper Jefferson's support in Virginia. So he was very much a Federalist after the fact, and he was like restless, dude. He was kind of broke because while he was gone, the farms didn't do good, and he saw the war with France coming. It was called the Quasi War at that time. Like it's a little after, but he kind of foresaw it happening. So he wrote a message to the Secretary of War, who was I forget his first name, but it was McHenry, who is Fort McHenry. That's what it's named after.
Yeah.
He basically said, "Hey, like I'll lead an army. Like I'll get the troops. Like I'm good with that." And that's what happened. And he did that till he died.
I didn't know he went back in the military after presidency.
Hamilton did most of it, but he was like the commanding general of the troops. Yeah, in case France came over. It never happened, but
yeah. Wait, Hamilton too?
Hamilton was a major general. Yeah.
And then, he
he was with
over Aaron Burr. And
I don't know if you screwed over Aaron Burr. Aaron Burr was he's a character.
He might get in that episode.
I hate that guy.
Who likes Aaron Burr? You kill him.
No, he was he tried to start a revolution too.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's really and he died. He got 4 pints of blood let from him because he had a
bloodletting back then. I feel like it's so stupid.
Yeah.
We were talking about the air earlier, now it's bloodletting too. It's like, man,
nonsense.
We come a long way.
Yes. So that ends our boy. And in his will, he said that the slaves should be freed after Martha's death. He frees all slaves. The one slave was like, no. His name was Billy. He stayed with him all the Revolutionary War. He's like, I kind of like being your slave.
Oh, man.
So there's a house. If you go to Mount Vernon, there's a little house that he built.
For Billy?
For Billy.
Yeah. Oh, wow. It's like a dog house.
Yeah, so that's, now that we talked about General George, President George, after President George, where are we putting him? So now let's talk about this for the ranking. Are we doing the whole life or just the presidency?
I'd say, we're focusing more on the presidency. I'd say the presidency and the things that they did during their time.
Sure. So,
office.
Did you ever do a tier ranking?
S, A, B, are we doing grade?
Yeah, we'll do a grade
for
now. So S, A, B, C, D, F.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't see how we're not going to put them in.
I'm putting them S.
Yeah, I don't think that's kind of undisputable.
Yeah, so it's gonna be a little longer episode.
I hope you guys had your your dozen wings and popcorn from the winning keg ready. Rock and roll.
So sorry if I kind of stole the conversation.
No, I'm kind of glad. I kind of liked interjecting there. It seems like you were very much so passionate on.
I'm a big George guy.
Washington guy. So
big George guy.
Yeah, no, that's
spoiler. He's like, I want to. He's top 2 for me.
Yeah,
he's probably 1. Yeah. Let's just get it out there. He's probably 1 for me.
They found that out real soon.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, I mean,
because this is a long one.
We'll see. I mean, next episode's probably gonna have to be online.
Oh yeah, we should talk about that. No more in person. Dave's
going back to college. We are, baby. We are, baby. Come on.
So I don't know. We might be able to do a Zoom thing.
Yeah, that's what we're gonna figure it out, and we're gonna test a bunch of things and see. But just don't expect this next episode. No, there might be some in the past that be like this, but
yeah. So next episode, John Adams.
Oh yeah,
can't wait.
That's it, I guess. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll see you later.